Again. All you to order. Commissioner Bellinger, not here. Commissioner Richardson. Yes, here. Commissioner Lee. Here. Vice Chief Ledcott. Here. Commissioner Katz. Here. Commissioner Schneider. Here. Sheriff Humphrey.
Not here.
You have one.
Great, thank you. All right, let's do the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, first things first, I think we can do public comment on items not on the agenda. So we've got Stephanie Singer, and you want to come first for what's not on the agenda? And then we can come back to the one that's on the agenda. Yeah.
Yeah,
So you want to come to the podium?
Oh, sure.
Yeah, so we can hear you.
Go back to the audience, right? With regard to the resurfacing plans for Newcastle and Stonehaven, that was brought up in a previous meeting. I would like to continue the community and the Safe Route to School, community organizations at the different high school, middle school, and elementary school levels. To continue the request for crosswalks on Newcastle, high visibility type, at Grant, Holt, Morton, and Fremont. For safe crossing for all the children going to and from Montclair Elementary, K-5, Cupertino Middle School, 6 through 8, and Homestead High School, 9 through 12. With regard to the Stonehaven, road, or lane, not sure which, Stonehaven resurfacing, we'd like to continue the request for, a crosswalk at Windermere for, as well as sidewalk continuance, or provision for some sort of sidewalk-like protection from vehicular traffic to enable access to and from, the elementary school for our K-5 students at Montclair through CUSD, as well as, access to the Los Altos City Park and city, tennis courts that are right there. That is a very busy stretch of road for folks who drop off and pick up by vehicular, and for all the 1,000 homes in that neighborhood getting onto St. Joseph, continuing down Stonehaven to St. Joseph to access the expressway and hence 280. And we would like to have more high visibility and safer crossing and pedestrian access in order to have vehicular conflict. Thank you.
Thanks so much, I really appreciate it. Maybe I can ask the city really quickly just about whether that squares with the existing plans that we talked about last week on Newcastle, maybe first. But I think there were a few separate intersections that got brought up there, as well as Stonehaven on the other side. I know that's a few different things, maybe we can. Yeah, exactly.
So it was Newcastle, what was the locations that you want to see crosswalks?
Grant frontage, Old Morton, and Fremont.
Grant frontage already has one.
In both directions,
Yeah.
across the, Grant frontage.
Grant's got a parallel line crosswalk. Awesome.
And Fremont has, Fremont Newcastle's crosswalk.
Is it highway?
I don't believe it's yellow.
Yeah,
But
I think we got that.
Right.
We can't.
And that's a very busy road, so,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Appreciate that outreach, and we'll work that with the city.
Great.
That's awesome. We can move on to consent calendar. So we've got 2 sets of minutes, this second meeting, prior commission meeting to approve. So things start. I think it's up to me to ask for a motion. You have a motion to approve. Do I have to do separately, or did you do that? Go together. Yeah. Yeah.
I move to approve both April 30th, 2025 and May 21st, 2025, regular and special meeting minutes.
Thanks. Do you have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Lee. Okay, do you want to do, we'll do a vote then?
Yeah.
Maybe, yeah, show of hands, who approves, aye, yeah. Okay. Close that. Thanks. All right, so good. Okay, thank you so much. All right, discussion items. First one we've got is fiscal year 24-25 annual street resurfacing project. I think you guys are gonna give us, Cindy's gonna give us informational project update on Grant Road to start.
We share a street also, if you want any plans, there's plans, there's 11 by 17 plans, if you guys, I know I gave you guys the small ones, but there's extra for plans there if you guys want. Yeah, let me share this. You see that? Go ahead.
Just give it on the commissioner a general overview. At this point in time, we do have a suit of bike lane along Grant from Grant Fremont all the way to Homestead. We do have gaps in between. The intent of this project is to go ahead and bring a uniform bike lane from one end of the road to the other end of the road, basically. The existing bike lane that is currently out there is substandard. What they did is they created a 5 foot wide bike lane, but they try to create a buffer by placing a second stripe on the inside. So by doing that, the bike lane is actually only 3 feet wide. So what we're trying to do in this project is, we're overlaying this project. It is something that the mayor has promised to deliver to the residents. To basically grind out the existing striping, we're gonna resurface it and put stripes down. So we're making the roads 11 foot to give it more of a narrow feel. And then we're actually trying to create a 5 foot wide bike lane. When the width allows, we're trying to put in a 2 foot buffer in between the travel lane of the vehicle and the bike lane. There are points where it's a little tight, so we're not putting the buffer in, just because we just don't have enough real estate. We are putting in the ladder crosswalk. That is a new standard that I'm trying to implement as much as possible. We are right in front of the library. We're removing that crosswalk. I'm also requesting my consultants to go ahead and put the pedestrian crossing R1-6 paddles on both sides of the crosswalk itself. What my consultant has not shown is the green paint behind the bike lane. That will be added as part of my comment to them. Keep going over art. One of the questions that that's been asked by the commissioners is to try to do something about slowing down the people making a right turn onto Newcastle. I'm trying to find a way to give it that narrow feel between putting delineators down and as well as putting in the traffic dots, so that we try to cut it short. We're gonna go over the dot and they're gonna feel the rumble. So they're gonna want to try to go around and slow down and make a right turn. So those are some of the general comments that I'm giving my consultants to make modifications on these set of plans. This was a 50% submittal. They have it about 80% right. I just want to add additional features that is more, hopefully will slow down the traffic when I'm trying to go into these, a lot of the side roads.
So can you, by looking at this, can you differentiate if it's gonna be the ladder is gonna be white or yellow?
It's basically gonna be, have to be white. Regulation states that if you're more than if you're within 600 feet of school, I do put yellow down,
Right.
but anything beyond that, I need to put white down.
Stephen, did you have more of your presentation you want to give, and then we can kind of open it up more
Yeah.
for questions?
So continue on that, and I'll just give a general overview. The intersection right where Lucky's gonna be, I understand there's someday plans for redevelopment. At that point, I'll have to address that at that point in time. At this point in time, I don't know what's gonna be developed there, so I cannot assume anything. So based on that, I have to go based on what is currently out there and design the road accordingly. Basically, what I've done is I have used the center line as a center point of the road. I offset the center line by 11 feet on both sides to give it the travel lane. If section of the road is wider, the bicycle lane is gonna, get the benefit of having a little bit wider lanes. But the travel lane itself is gonna maintain at 11 feet throughout the whole length. To try to give it the narrow feel and hopefully it'll slow people down. Majority of the bike lane does have a buffer. As you can see, kind of, going through. Like I said, there's some comments that I still have to give to my consultant to go ahead and modify. Like around Lucky's, I have roll curbs along the whole business between Lucky's and Newcastle, so I cannot have a solid bike lane. I've got to put the dash green to show that the cars are going to cross a bicycle lane, so I need to give it some sort of a more of a warning. If it was a standard curve, I wouldn't worry about it, but I've got to go ahead and make that modification. Keep going down on. Christie Road, again, it's gonna be the ladder approach. We're gonna put a white thing down. That's considered one of the high visibility for the MTCD. The bike lane is gonna continue all the way through. When it gets close to the homestead, it's gonna I have to drop the bike lane because the width is just not there. I cannot get enough width at that location. That's where the bicycle and the pedestrian traffic merges. If for a bike to go through that intersection, they would have to go into the travel lane anyway because of the geometry of that intersection. So, like I said, I've created as much as I can the bike lane to allow bicyclists to transit through this area, protect as much as I can. So that's just kind of giving you as a high level layout of what is being proposed.
That's everything.
That's the 5,000 foot
Yeah.
analysis.
Let's open it up for commissioners that have questions. Looks like, you've got a question?
Yeah, backing up to Lucky.
Mhm.
Correct, so on the left-hand side here, it looks like you're shifting the center divide a little bit towards the bottom of the picture.
What I'm doing is I'm squaring it up,
Okay,
so it's more perpendicular to the entrance coming in from Foothill.
understood, but you're also giving more space to turn into that lane.
Which,
So we've got speeders coming off of Foothill, making a right-hand turn
mhm,
into this intersection from the bottom of the page.
mhm.
And then making a hard left. And if you open this, that increases the speed of that turn,
Okay,
okay?
I will
If
take a
you
look
make
at
a bubble, and I'm just talking paint. But like you did on the north end of the street, make a bubble there.
Mhm.
Or a small bubble here to restrict that opening would help slow things.
I will do my best.
So what I was trying to ask before is that on these drawings with the ladder crosswalk, by looking at this, can you tell if it's gonna be yellow or white? And I know what you said, it's gonna be primary school, but just by looking at these pictures,
You can't really tell.
okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know if there's a key or anything.
No, you
Okay,
can't really tell,
thank you.
but because it is far enough away from a school.
Right.
You would
I understand, but if it was within 500 feet, they couldn't tell by looking at this.
If it was within 500 feet, that crosswalk will probably show yellow
Instead of black,
instead of black. We have shown yellow at other locations.
okay, thank you.
Moving to Grant and Homestead. My least favorite intersection in the entire city.
Trust me, I'm not enjoying that intersection.
I know this is asking for too much, but is there any way we can do something to improve this intersection?
I've so far turned in 2 grant application to do an analysis of this intersection to do a geometric study. That's about the extent of what I could do at this point in time. I just don't have the budget to do anything beyond that.
Crazy idea, could we terminate, the street before we actually cross Homestead? Not allowing the straight through, because that's the thing that's the number one cause of risk in my mind.
Right there on, Chris Road.
No, I'm saying when you're coming from Grant, you
Mhm.
get to Homestead, you must turn right.
Onto like Foothill,
Yep, towards Foothill.
instead of continuing further to Homestead.
Yeah, that
For bicyclists or for a vehicle?
vehicles, all vehicles. And that crossing of those two lanes plus entering into Homestead is extremely high risk.
It is. I agree.
So we just do away with it.
I'll take a look at it.
Okay.
But, yeah. I mean, I could drop the second right.
What would that do to traffic?
Yeah.
Is that?
It would get really bad.
It would impact BTA as well.
There's several bus,
Yeah,
there's bus
that's the
stops.
BTA conflict.
Okay. Interesting.
It's a great idea, though.
Yeah.
I love the idea. I'm just letting you know that it's also a BTA conflict.
There's cost crazy ideas out.
Okay, does anybody else have any more questions?
Quick question.
I have one more question.
On all the intersections,
Mhm.
you show the other crosswalk. Are you gonna have green paint for continuation of the bike lane? On every one of these, or any exceptions? Okay.
Actually, that's one of my comments to the consultant right now.
Now, I think with the treatment of the signs, roads, the painted signs, right at the intersection of Homestead and Grant. Where you terminate the bike lane and enter the right turn lane. Are we gonna do any green paint treatment there, something like what we were discussing about on Berry and so on? Or the same
Yeah,
with
we could
Costa
do that.
and Monte, right?
No, I could do that.
Because right now it's kind of like it ends there, there's no indication of.
I know exactly what you mean.
That's right.
It's just this little.
Okay, yeah.
It's this.
I can do that, it's no problem.
The right turn.
Yeah,
I think from what I can tell, because there is a bike lane that continues on the other side.
Mhm.
Yeah, you would be able to do, those green ladder
Mhm.
treatments.
Yeah, I can do that.
Because you don't run into the same problem as Questa and Mate, right? You wouldn't run into the same problem.
No.
Yeah.
In fact, I was gonna present something about Question, really, Question and Almonte. Actually, that's what it would be, because right now, the existing second lane is a right turn only.
Yeah.
Scott. you have another-
Yes, Suresh, clarification, are you suggesting when coming to the right on Grant, when you approach Homestead, that you would have a
Some sort
dash
of-
green line moving into the left lane, so for the through lane, is that what you're suggesting?
I'm asking, yes, yeah, that's right. I don't think we look into that. Okay. Let's see, then. So I see that, the buffer ends at Farndon, and then between Farndon and Homestead, you don't have a buffer going west, correct? There's a bike lane buffer going west, between Farndon and Homestead.
No,
Right.
I just don't have enough.
You don't have it.
Right.
And, the road width is 11 feet all the way through?
Yes,
Right.
the new proposed travel lane, the line of lead all the way through.
Okay, what was the old,
It varies between 11 and 12.
between, Farndon and Homestead?
Actually, even goes beyond that. What is that? I think. Around Bolito, right around the Unlucky,
Uh-huh.
that section actually gets up to as wide as 18 feet. And there's no bike lanes out there.
Yeah, right.
Now I've got a general question, which is, of all the laddered crosswalks that we've seen in the drawings, how many of them are brand new crosswalks versus just restriping existing crosswalks for better visibility?
We're putting back existing crosswalks on. We're not creating new ones.
There are no new ones
There are
created.
no new ones.
So these are all existing crosswalks,
Correct.
and what we're doing is we're really making them much more visible.
Correct.
Yeah, they don't have the ladders right now.
Yeah, just federal.
It's just like the federal line.
Great. Did anyone else have any comment or other input that they wanted?
Good questions. Question,
Yeah.
think about.
Yeah, okay. Does anybody in the public have a comment on any of what we just discussed?
We're gonna action that one.
I think you should. Oh, do you remember, yeah.
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 Yeah, that's just-
Yeah,
it's a chance to
absolutely.
have comment.
On this, yeah,
Yeah,
that's great.
Yes.
It's a lot.
Yeah, great.
It's a lot because there were, you know, the agenda's got, you know, 7 different drawings, right?
Yeah,
You know,
for sure.
so, same person, Stephanie saying. Bike lane, right turn, green paint frontage road grant to St. Simon's Grant Road. Is that going to be contiguous? Because right now there's nothing. There's no green paint noted on the drawing.
On, to go to San Simon,
To turn right onto Grant Road on the St. Simon end of the front road. So it's on your first drawing at the curve.
Yeah.
Where it's a forced right-hand turn for vehicles.
that is beyond our limits of the projects.
So you can't connect the
We're not
bike
gonna-
lane to
we're
the
not
bike
gonna-
lane?
We're not gonna paint, I'll look at it, see if it is feasible. I'll take a look at it. The problem is, if I put bike lane there, then I'm gonna put bike lane everywhere else. It cannot be just one spot.
There already is a bike lane on. Grant
No, there
Road.
is a bike lane there, but if I put a green paint there, then I gotta put that consistently throughout.
Oh, following all the way down.
Correct.
So how do you bridge
I
the
think
gap
you've gotta
between?
keep it just a comment.
Yeah, oh, sorry,
Yeah,
sorry, of course,
that's good.
yeah.
Yeah.
He asked for clarification, so
Yeah,
I got
totally, yeah.
a little sidetracked, sorry about that.
We're entrapping you. Apologies.
Um,
Yeah,
My biggest question for everyone is how do southbound students on Grant Access Road approach the two-way cycle track when it starts to become Homestead Road safely? That is the conflict area. There have been vehicle impacts with students in that exact area. The extension of the two-way cycle track to Chris Road would solve that issue. Because the students would be crossing before they approach what we, as parents, call the Bermuda Triangle, because we don't know if the students are gonna come out safely. And they haven't. There have been a lot of close calls and there was one vehicular impact with a student on their way to school. Let's see, if you'd like a high-vis, crosswalk at Sereno, I don't know if you'd mentioned that or not. Right now, it's just a regular crosswalk. And again, potentially extending the, two-way cycle track all the way to Christ.
So, you know,
You mentioned the green paint contiguous throughout, that's great. The bike lane, buffer is hash marked. We'd like to see those hash marked in all the places where there is a bike lane buffer. The 2 stripes, we'd like to see that hashing all the way through. So that it's, a legal, island, so that, you know, vehicles know they're not crossing to it. Let's see. Stop signs are again requested on Grant at Newcastle, as well as bulb outs. Now, we do understand that for budgetary reasons and for infrastructure reasons, that asking for concrete bulb outs of a sidewalk is a big ask. So, that your staff's mention of, bumps or some other thing, we would ask that they're the triangle type, so that they're more significant than just little road turtles.
thanks. Sorry, what was the set of intersections that you were requesting?
So that is at, what did we say, Newcastle at Grant Frontage. So there's a crosswalk there.
Yeah.
We'd asked many times for the stop signs and crosswalks coming across Grant Frontage at that point. Because, southbound vehicular traffic turning left onto Newcastle cannot see trailing small children that are on their way to the library behind an adult. Because as you're driving down that road, there's no stop sign to approach, there's no intention to slow down your vehicle. And if you're turning left and you don't see another vehicle coming out to turn left onto Grant Frontage towards Lucky's, you don't slow down and you don't make notice. That's where very young children get run over. That's a very high risk area. So if you're not gonna do stop signs, at least put those big heavy duty, you know, not round turtles, but triangular bumps in the road to make sure that people at least have to slow down enough to stay in a narrow path, and also so that pedestrians crossing there have a shorter length of time if they're at risk of vehicular impact. Let's see. Well, that's our big one, just that the student cyclists on their way to school was hit right there in that Bermuda Triangle in order to cross the road to access the cycle track. And so being able to do that back at Christ, across the sidewalk that's, across a crosswalk that's high vis in order to access a two-way cycle track that starts at Christ would make everything safer for everyone. Because you will have conflict of students that are approaching the elementary school K-5 with their parents, going in one direction, and you will have students going to the middle school who are 6 to 12 graders going the other direction. Conflicts on sidewalks, conflicts in the bike lane, what have you, and making a two-way cycle track starting at Chris would greatly improve the flow and the safety, and also increase bicycle ridership in our young, which is when we want to get them started, so that they start early and don't get in their cars. Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming. Okay, great. Okay,
Wants to,
oh, please, Tony.
with the current physical layout there, do we have anything like the green necessary for a two-way cycle track?
That's what I'm looking for right now.
So often.
Just quickly, would it be useful for you to describe what the two-way cycle track is now for the rest of the commissioners?
On Grant,
Yeah.
so that's what I'm looking
Is
for.
that, it's actually on the-
Yeah.
We're gonna vote to
It's extending to the Homestead Grant frontage intersection
Yeah.
at Vineyard, but it doesn't actually get to the sidewalk where the crosswalk is.
Got it.
So it's an issue at that point. And you don't have a safe way of navigating students on bicycles through that triangle portion, where you've got Vineyard, the Expressway, Homestead, and Grant frontage all coming together. And asking a sixth grade child to know how to behave as a driver and get in the lane of traffic and be in direct conflict with people speeding off of an expressway, turning right, is not a great solution.
Yeah. That's sure. Thank you. Yeah. All right, so, that was, what we have for number 3, and I think Stephen and Art, you guys, give your input on those points too, right? So, I think we can, go on. So, yeah,
the-
want to make sure we got comments from you.
Final comment, regarding the safety of this intersection and given the concerns raised by the commissioners and public at large, Stephen, is there any other safety mechanisms that could be placed there, like, with a bicyclist press a light to like trigger flashing lights that indicate bicyclists nearby? Anything of that nature that could be done to improve safety by road geometries?
Grants that I'm submitted to that I've already heard one no, I'm still waiting on the second one. It's basically has to be a whole new geometry in that intersection, where it's basically, it's two intersections that function together. Where you have a bicyclist going through a controlled intersection with signal. Because of the 90-degree curvature there, it makes it very difficult to see anything. So to address all that, I need to have traffic signal at Grant and Homestead, as well as Grant and Fremont, Foothill, that talks to each other and coordinates the traffic signal, so that when it's red, where the traffic is going north on Foothill, Grant turns, when it's green on Foothill, Grant turns green, so that the bicyclists could travel. And when the traffic, I just gotta work with the
Yeah.
signal, so it's basically two intersections, like an H intersection. That would allow the most safest route for bicyclists to go through there. That is asking for a lot of money, is the reason why we cannot take it on unless we have grants. So I've already been looking at different options of trying to make it safer for a bicyclist. Putting on lights there is not gonna really help the matters any. I need to make it a controlled intersection. So there's no really easy, quick solution that I can think of.
So I guess to not go to the extent of a full lighting system like we're talking about, I mean, given the crosswalks we have on San Antonio, where there's a pedestrian crossing the two lanes of traffic, there's a lower cost solution liable, given?
No, because right now at that intersection, you already have a situation where vehicles are coming in and we have to keep clear in that location.
Correct.
The problem is that keep clear, cars are still coming into the intersection. So it cannot be just, the rapid rectangular flashing beacon. It has to be something more substantial. Because they're already coming into the intersection because of the curvature. With that curvature, it makes it very difficult for, let's say, a bicyclist to go through that intersection, especially if there's a tall SUV. Because a bicycle will stop on the right-hand side of the vehicle instead of on the left side, where it's more visible. So, yeah, I wish there was an easy and quick solution. If so, I would have already implemented it. But I can't think of anything beyond having to redo this whole geometry of the intersection.
It's not safe, but you could always move the bike lane to the left side in that little tiny stretch so that they can access the left-hand turn lane.
Like you said, it's not safe.
It's still not safe.
Yeah.
But it gets them on the driver's side of an SUV for visibility. Instead of expecting them to be on the right-hand side where the driver is not paying attention to traffic or potential bike riders in that space.
But the problem with the left side is the fact that we've been training our bicyclists to be posted on the right hand side. So now you're doing conflict where some.
Until they get to the 2-cycle track. And then they go to the left.
Yeah, so you gotta follow some of the industry standards. The moment you deviate from it is when someone gets hurt.
Could you curve it? The part that's on the right in that section?
Like I said, I've already,
You couldn't curve it just for the bike? In the part that's gonna be green anyway?
I've been looking at this from the day one when I started looking for the city.
Yeah, I mean, we've been working on this for over 10 years. Our people are graduating. Yeah.
Sure. Did anyone else have, commission have comment on Apple's item?
Seems like Steven's looked at it enough, so any suggestions of additional lights flashing, things like that, aren't what's gonna solve it at this time, so I made my point.
Yeah, question. Steve, can you comment on what those grants were? You said one was rejected, what's the other one that we are looking for?
There was a study grant, to the federal highway, no, not, the federal highway. This is VTA, to do a study grant for 300,000, I asked for 250 to go and analyze this intersection for possible geometry modifications. And some preliminary design. I haven't heard that.
Will it help if the commission maybe writes supporting letter of the grant or maybe some community input? to support
The
it?
deadline was like months ago, so at this
Is
point.
there any other additional grants that you're looking at? It would be helpful for the commission to, write a supporting letter? or-
I've looked at the safe highway improvement plan, and one of the criteria is, what are the accident history and how are we gonna improve the safety of the accident? Looking at the history is, I think I saw only up to one as of 2020, and I understand there's another accident, so there's only two.
Is that the vehicular ped accident, or are you talking vehicular?
Vehicular ped and vehicular bicycle.
Okay.
And the volume is relatively low, and what federal highway is looking for is something that is more of, something more severe that people are trying to improve on.
Okay, is there any other grants that might be in, any other commission know of any other grants that might help, we should see if we can look into it.
Yeah, I mean, grant, I'd be more than happy to apply, but
That's
I've
a
been
question, yeah.
I've been looking at the grant
Yeah.
application at least once a month to see what kind of grants I qualify for. And it's just, one thing I could really qualify for is safety element, because our community is considered affluent, so it does not qualify for a lot of the other grants. So it's just.
Okay. My child was 67 pounds when he started riding his bike to a middle school. Cross a freeway and expressway and overpass a creek bed, reach city limits, and through that Bermuda Triangle. And I dare say that does not count him as affluent when it comes to his safety.
Yeah.
A child versus a vehicle, income levels and parental background has zero impact on the ability for a child to safely access education.
Yeah, for sure. I think it would be helpful, Stephanie, if, if there was a way you could, send an email or anything like that to us, with more detail, any, like, your personal experience, your business experience, the things you're.
Oh, I
talking about.
have. I worked with the prior consultant for the city of Los Altos. I sent a very detailed letter for the entire stretch.
Okay,
For both the Homestead Corridor project, and we asked for that Homestead Corridor project to extend to the Grant Frontage, Grant
Yeah.
Road intersection near St. Simon's. It was not, the scope was not extended to that stretch.
Yeah.
So all of the commentary that I put in the consultant's, notification included all of that. So that should be public record already.
yeah, absolutely. I'm happy to go back and look for it myself. I don't know if you still have access to it, I'm not asking you to recreate anything. Well, if you could forward things to me, because some of us are newer to the commission and
Right,
we
right.
have some new folks for the city as well, so,
You can send the transportation out for it.
yeah,
Okay,
thank you. We'll really appreciate it. We'll review it. Yeah, appreciate for us your question to Stephen about other grants. I mean, clearly, Stephen, one thing we're hearing, and I think it's clear too, not just from, for sure from comments, from Stephanie and others, but when we just look at the intersection, and those of us who I think have lived in Los Altos for a long time and been through there on bike and by foot, that's an issue intersection, and that's an issue stretch around the intersection. I think that's not news to you guys. That's part of why, you're proposing to do some of the work that we're doing here, and that's why it's coming to the mayor. So, I would just echo and say, obviously, let's try and look for more grants. We know the challenges with our community getting grants, but, anything we can do there and anything we can do to either, I don't know what history we have in the city of looking for, direct budget for things, for any ways or mechanisms by which we could cost effectively study this and look for some kinds of solutions. I think, but obviously reflecting too that you've done a lot of that legwork that you're able to within your own capacity. We appreciate that. But anything we can do to try to tackle some of what we see are going to be the remaining issues with this intersection, even after you guys do this needed work in and around there, I think could be really valuable. So maybe that's something that we can consider legitimizing for a future meeting, or somehow getting a little bit more attention on. Just still understanding, obviously, the issues with being able to address it. It's a really complex intersection for sure. But
there also were zero notifications sent to any of the schools involved.
Yeah.
For Newcastle or Stonehaven
Yeah.
resurfacing.
Yeah.
It was only sent to actual property owners,
residents, right.
not
Yeah.
all of the children on the bottom side of Foothill Expressway.
Yeah.
Who are elementary school students
Yeah, no,
crossing an expressway
Yeah, we want to
and traveling on those roads.
work on our notifications for sure.
Yeah, at the very least, the PTO organizations, the Safe Routes to School representatives, I mean, you guys have the names, we're here.
Yeah.
We're here when there are conflicting events.
Yeah, appreciate that. Absolutely appreciate it. Okay, thank you. Does anyone else have a comment on this one? Okay, thank you. Okay. Okay. We can go to item number 4, which is goal number 5, going back to the work plan. Thanks, Art, for providing that back for us. And we wanted to talk about CSU strategic plans. Last week, or I should say, last non-special meeting, our regular meeting, we talked about some of the. Yeah.
Will we, number 3, are we done? You guys
Oh, yeah.
did your,
Yeah. I
I
thought,
just want to make sure you guys closed it out and, or we're good, right?
Yeah.
With all the comments from the board? For Grant Road? Okay. I just wanted to make sure.
yeah, no, absolutely. Thanks for pointing that out. Yeah. Thanks for bringing it to us.
I guess I'd like just to get a summary from Stephen as to, given the discussion that we just had on Grant Road, where are we in terms of moving forward and what are the next steps?
Mr. Betts, what do you mean, where we at?
I mean,
What's the plan next?
we just went through the presentation of what you're planning to implement. And we've gotten feedback from both the commission and from some community members. And I'm just wondering now, as we go forward, what are, from a staff perspective, what are the next steps going forward from here?
If the comments is something that I can incorporate into the plans, I will be incorporating into the plans. And to have the plans revised. I have to be out for bid by end of next week, because council will be going on, their summer recess. So August 8th is the last day for them to award a contract. Otherwise, the annual street will have to be delayed until September. So I will be incorporating all the comments that, as much as I can, that's feasible. And then have the plans reflected accordingly.
Thank you. In July,
July, sorry.
July.
Yeah, we have to bid by first week of June, so we could open bids by end of June to award by council by July.
If you take the break, and they'll be back in end of August. Right now, there's a big break there.
That answers your question, Steve? Thank you. Okay, all right, moving on to number 4, which is 2025 work plan. Goal number 5. So last month we had discussed the possibility of, well, let's just talk about this point first. Goal number 5 is identify capital priorities with respect to Safe Routes to School, Lead Streets Master Plans, items in past budgets, and discuss forming an ad hoc subcommittee to look further into this. So we did discuss this because I think we want to go a little bit deeper on this and try to make more progress on this and sort of get really specific with understanding anything that was planned by prior sort of commissions with the city to be done, and then wasn't done, and or anything that's just in either of these plans that we're trying to make progress to and eventually complete. You know, identify and sort of confirm that, and then decide whether we want to integrate that into future work plans. So I think maybe that's one that we can I can ask commissioners if they have questions on, or if anybody else actually, yeah, maybe we can open that to commissioners, just if there's anything more specific that you want to ask about first, and then we can discuss around how we would tackle that.
Okay, question?
That's right.
So when we say we want to identify the gaps in priorities, I'm guessing that we have a list, a 5-year list now that we think we're working off of. And the idea behind this particular work item is to look at that list, see where we are from what we had identified in the Complete Streets Master Plan. And then there's a third component to this, and I think I want to see the staff wants to provide some additional information for us to work on, is there are some past CIP projects in the past budgets that we may have not accomplished or not completed, and we want to identify what those are. So we have 3 data points. One is projects in the previous CIPs, maybe going back to a couple of years. Then the Complete Streets Master Plan and the 5-year list that we have. I think this, and identify what other projects that we may want to be on the list before we start to prioritize for the next year. Is that
I think that is a good comprehensive restatement, as I understand it. There's sort of work plans from prior years, to the extent we can even surface those. I obviously was here for 2024, and I think we talked 2024, so I'm less concerned about that, frankly. Not that I'm super concerned about anything, but going into prior years, to the extent we can surface that of work plans from this commission and what the city agreed on. Then separately, there's that analysis of our Safe Routes to Schools as reflected in the Complete Streets Master Plan, and see basically just, this is a chance for us to catch up on what remains of that work, what hasn't been done, and how we can make sure that all of those priorities are incorporated into basically beyond 2025, beyond this year's work plan. Does that capture everything?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, okay, great. And I think that's a worthwhile exercise for us to dig in on, as as a commission and probably as a subcommittee. But yeah, so that's, I think that's right. Anybody else have any questions on, kind of what we're talking about or proposing to do here? And we can maybe have just a
I
discussion.
think,
about
I
it
think,
too.
yeah, the
Yeah.
reason why I brought someone,
Yeah.
it's important to clarify is when we create the sub, if we
Yeah,
create a
yeah.
subcommittee, the task description
Yeah,
needs to be
support.
pretty clear.
Yeah, it has to be crisp, I agree. Yeah, my sense is, you know, we can get as clear as we possibly can. I think the exercise involves actually just like a couple of us doing a comprehensive read and analysis of the plans and make sure that, and just map that against, you know, like you mentioned, we already have a going forward 5-year plan that I think is pretty close, but this is, just a chance for us to make sure that it maps completely. And beyond that, I think, make sure that we're also, for each of the streets that we're working on, that we're incorporating sort of all of the elements and best practices that are reflected in those plans, which I think is a useful exercise too. So not just, you know, make sure we're getting all the intersections, make sure we're also doing everything that we want to accomplish, for each of those intersections. That's a useful, project to complete as well.
Like beyond the CIP budget, sorry, beyond the CIP projects, do we also, will the subcommittee also create, like a report on gaps not related to CIP projects? I mean, or are we just going to stick to the CIP project?
I'm open to, I've heard from, other members of the commission in the past, that we haven't in the past, limited ourselves to just those city CIP projects. And I don't think we need to limit ourselves to that, whatsoever. I think it can be an exploration of, what else is, has been agreed as a priority, for us to bring up and work into our work plan.
Just to
So,
clarify,
yeah.
though, we want to stick within the framework of the complete.
100%, yeah, absolutely, yeah. We're not creating something whole cloth. We're essentially just like, what I see it as is an opportunity to go back and make sure that we are executing on the plan that we've got from city council, that the public, you know, has had a lot of awareness of. That's kind of how I see it.
Sure.
Yeah, but to your point, I think if that plan that was, you know, agreed by council and developed by the city, includes things beyond CIP, then we would prioritize those and try to work those too. That makes sense. Yes.
I'm gonna add to that. So I think, Suresh, what you're getting at is also, goal number 4. Point 2, review and update long-term CIP project list, right? It's a blending of 5A, if you will, what we're talking about and the prior thing, right? So like taking these projects like we just reviewed with Steven around Grant and Homestead, like I wasn't aware this was a long-term issue. Citizens are, but yeah, staff's aware. Where do we track these like target issues? I know Jim Wings brought up many times, like here's key intersections for us to focus on. That might, you know, fall into a long-term CIP project list of things we want to like make sure that we're tracking and, you know, slip our minds. So there's that piece of a clarification. The second piece, the reason we adding a forming a subcommittee to this particular discussion item was to allow us the freedom to do it, given the posting of it. We also discussed the opportunity of just having a working pair form in this, and then the working pair can work with staff as well if we want it less formalized. So they can take on 1 or 2 of the particular goals and then blend them together perhaps to create the output. So that was the intention. So that was not, it doesn't have to be an ad hoc subcommittee to the fellow commissioners. It can also be a working pair, but we wanted to be flexible.
Thank you. Well said.
And then, just a quick question to follow up on what was just said is, obviously the reason we're doing this is to feed into item number 4, which is the, project list for next year, right? Which would be a similar long-term, to sort of tweak the long-term CIP project list.
Yes.
So the question, I guess the question I had was, can the staff maybe outline is what is a timeline you would like for the next CIP project? You know, obviously we want to get ahead this time. I think that was a goal we discussed in last month's
Yes.
work plan discussion. How do we get ahead? You know, if we have some idea what that timeline is, maybe that would help us also see what is our urgency and how soon we can move forward on the number five.
CIP budgeting, right? Yeah.
Or see, there's three aspects, there's just CIP budgeting, but it's also, if there are some projects where we want more community engagement, right? Then giving yourself more time would be useful.
Well, right now, I'm not saying repeatedly, we are already going out to the next year's, CIP projects. We're trying to buffer, to hire themselves already for the next year's. So our intent is to go out, start going out now, have the contract awarded in the next fiscal year, as soon as the new fiscal year starts. Where they start doing the design, in the hopes that the design will be done no later than December, January of this year, so we can go out to bid no later than February of next year.
So basically, the consultant is engaged in
Starting probably about August
this year.
this year.
So I think that one of the challenges for me, I don't know if it's true for everybody on the commission, is that it would be very nice not to have to open a curtain every time we have a meeting to see what's on the other side of the curtain. So if what this subcommittee can do is provide transparency beyond the next curtain, that says, here's the list of gaps and projects that have fallen off for whatever reason. And then here's some recommendations as to how they get prioritized with staff, so that there's an agreement that these are A, B, C, D, whatever priorities. We don't know exactly what the funding's gonna be, but then there's a level of knowledge that is easily accessible. The frustration that I have right now is that for those out there and on the commission who've been around for a long time, we each have our own internal knowledge base of what we remember and what we don't remember, or documents that we've kept. But there isn't any one place that we can go to say, here is where it's now been compiled into an organized list of the stuff that has been identified. And maybe some of that stuff needs to come off the list because it's no longer relevant. Other stuff needs to be added, but at least we've got something to work from. And if we just accomplish that, I think that would be a huge win for the commission and for the city.
Can I ask just a clarifying question on that, Steve? Can you help us understand a little bit more, like what you're talking about? What would be the product that would be useful? Is it, you mentioned like just kind of like a more clear, comprehensive list of the priority sort of streets,
Yes,
intersections that.
yes, so that we're not always talking at a high level.
Yeah,
And we're actually getting down to, what's the next layer beyond what's being done this year,
yeah,
and hopefully beyond this year or next year.
yeah,
But the list, that stuff we haven't got to yet.
yeah,
And so, for example, that what comes out of, and this is just one that we've talked about today. If what Stephen comes back with, what staff comes back with and says, here's our interim solution for what we're gonna do at Grant Homestead. We know it's a heck of a lot less than Crooklyn, because we don't have funding to build a subway, which would be wonderful, but actually go under the freeway. There's no risk whatsoever, right? Well, we know that isn't gonna happen. So, however, what we'd like to do in a future year is to really enhance that in a much better way. That thing goes on a list, right? And then we go back to things that we haven't done yet, right? Whether it's stuff that we've taken off because other things we thought were gonna happen that didn't happen. Like maybe we were gonna do something on Los Altos Avenue, but we didn't do it because San Antonio Road was gonna happen, that hasn't happened. And maybe that gets added to the list. But we need to have something that actually identifies what those things are.
Yeah.
Specifically, and then we have something that we can talk about that makes sense. And if I'm off in the weeds, then just say, hey, that doesn't make any sense, and let's move on to something else.
No, that makes sense to me. Go ahead.
I mean, to your question, I think the output would be either a list on the Fleet Street's website, right? Things they're working on, maybe the city website of like top 10 CIP when they're started, what our target date is. But I mean, your statement there just clearly is review and update long-term CIP project list and build out and list a term of these projects, right? So
Yeah.
you're incorporating four into this, which is great for what you're thinking about.
Yes.
I mean, this, and then now I think about the work item for discussion is number 5 for the strategic plan goal, which is, I guess, I'm not here to say don't talk, because it's important that you do, but how do we blend the discussion item of the strategic plan of goal 5 and then incorporate this or build a working pair or something out to like take dual action?
Yeah.
I don't know how you do one without the other.
Well, that's what I mean, they're inter, for what we're trying to fill gaps and plan for things we don't know, which is what you're calling, it's true.
Absolutely.
I think if you do a working pair, is not as,
Yeah,
as
yeah.
strict, as
Correct.
because subcommittee, you have to be specific on what
Yeah.
it's about, so.
Yeah.
You could do a working pair and then incorporate whatever you guys like to incorporate,
Yeah.
so it's a little less, not as specific as.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, just a little advice.
Yeah. Thanks. Aaron. Yeah, appreciate that. Okay.
Sure, can I
Please.
go back to my questions, originally about the timeline?
Yeah.
Just wanted to circle back into, sort of a full calendar timeline. So you're saying, we'll start looking at the project list and engage a consultant sometime in August, I think,
We're hoping to have a contract award to consult about this.
by August. And then the design phase, we said in December.
Design hopefully will be done in December or January.
Design done by December, January. And,
Go out to bid probably about January, February.
okay, and then,
Construction started probably about March, April.
before the school year ends.
Well, we would award the job, so by that time, we would have all the, we know which consultant, which contractor we start working. So we know what to do.
So in part of this, obviously, you're looking for some, during this phase, is there any project that you're going to think, if there's any project that requires significant redesign, I mean, restriping, let's say, want to bring in some school, safe routes to school elements and so on. When do you envision having customer, community input?
Between August and December.
Between August and September, but you won't have any designs for feedback. You'll have some preliminary designs.
We'll have some designs.
So we want to make sure that those are noticed sometime between August and the end of the year. That's kind of a short-term goal. I don't know if that's part of this effort or not. And I think that's why I'm trying to get to it, because this is, number 5 is more of a strategic task. If we want to get this list approved
Yeah.
by staff and then by city council before we go to bid,
Yeah.
maybe that's a higher priority first, should we get that out of the way?
Well, I think.
That's it, yeah, so I'm going back to what you're saying, Steve, is we gotta balance this amount, because we don't wanna miss any of these timelines.
Well, it seems to me that it's not a conflict. For example, in the strategic, on number 5, you specifically call out how AB 43 can be used for traffic calming. That's actually on the work plan today, right? Well, that doesn't mean anything to me. It means absolutely nothing. If, however, somebody said we have to slow down traffic on this major thoroughfare, I don't, maybe it's Grant Road, maybe it's San Antonio, who knows? And we'd like to look at AB 43 in that context. And so in this time frame, we're going to look at AB 43 as a potential way to address traffic on this. And that, so it's not just resurfacing and restriping, it's the whole strategy of what we're trying to accomplish in terms of safe routes to school. We weave it all in together.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Multifaceted.
So that way, I think it helps the commission and it helps staff to say, hey, we're not gonna go say, we're proposing we use AB 43 in the city. Well, who does anything with that? You can't. But if you say, we think we can use it in this place where we've got a major problem, then, that makes sense or it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Um,
I'm just a simple guy. I don't think complicated stuff.
yeah, no, keep it simple, sure. All right, so for this item, my sense is, I think it's worthwhile, I mean, this is my, we can have the commission decide, but I think it's worthwhile to dedicate some folks to work on a subcommittee related to, I think Suresh's point is great around, if I understand it and restate it correctly, is, it sounds like there's a small window in time during which we have an opportunity to take a quick look at both our sort of guiding documents, the Safe Routes to School and the District's master plan, and see if there are major gaps that we want to add into what will go to the consultant. And that could maybe be like the first priority of the subcommittee, to look at that and just see if there's any quick input that we want to give to the city that the city could actually incorporate. So maybe that's sort of like literally task one of the subcommittee. And then separately from that, we could do a little bit more comprehensive look as a subcommittee at that documentation and try to look sort of like more strategically into the outlying years and see what goes on for beyond 2026, beyond next fiscal year. So maybe that's something that we start with. And I don't see any issue with, Steve, I wanna obviously make sure we give ourselves like crisp and narrow sort of direction for subcommittee. But I think we could just say, explore the other top strategic priorities in this year's work plan and make sure that those are incorporated into, go ahead, sir.
No, I think, I don't think we don't, I think we can accomplish what Commissioner Katz is asking for, because that could be a recommendation.
Yeah.
It's not the work of the subcommittee,
Yeah.
but we could say that's a recommendation we're looking for.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And the subcommittee could make that recommendation.
Mhm.
While we still keep it, I mean, we can keep the definition that you
Yeah.
initially started with, and
Yeah.
I think that a compliment, that accomplishes what Commissioner Katz was saying.
Yeah.
I think I agree with Commissioner Katz's point about if we want to identify things like AB 43. Even if we're not able to do it for this year, if we want to do it for the following year,
Yes,
we have to identify it now, because that's a lot of work item. That's a big
Yes.
work item.
yes,
And sooner we identify that gap with that, so.
that makes sense to me. Okay, thanks. Yeah, as well as, I think I didn't specifically call out, that we could look into the work product, sort of including, a list of these top priority items, to the extent we do surface any, as part of the work of that subcommittee. And I have no issue with saying, we could ultimately include that on the website, if there's an easy, efficient way to do that, and it makes sense.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
I also will have Commissioner will have the opportunity to give feedback like this.
Yes.
To the subcommittee
Absolutely.
as the work is being.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Okay, great. So trying to think about the right way to just put this into action, for the subcommittee. I'm trying to think about what I even, asked us to, sort of, agree to direct a subcommittee to do. I think we basically have, we have described it here, but I'm trying to think about how we actually record it or memorialize it, and kind of vote on it.
Should we get to that?
Yeah.
You wanna make sure we're following up on.
Yeah.
Brown.
Are you looking at the rules here?
Yeah, I just wanna make sure we're following what specifically in the subcommittee.
Yeah, okay. Maybe just keep it simple. We talk about, we'll ask the commission to, approve formation of a subcommittee.
I think what you have listed is.
Yeah, it's good, okay, great, and we can do that, and I think we can run with that. Maybe we'll just go ahead and vote on that. Um. Go ahead and do that, right?
Yeah.
I think you might wanna go around the table and ask if everyone's clear on what.
Yeah, what
Yeah.
specifically, because
It's-
we wanna make sure this is where the motion was established.
Yeah,
Something.
Absolutely. So let me ask, if we-
Unless you wanna do a working pair instead.
Yeah, I'm open to that too, but let's maybe focus on the subcommittee first. If we propose to form an ad hoc subcommittee, that the task of that subcommittee is to look at goal number 5 on our 2025 work plan, to identify gaps and priorities with respect to safe routes to school, and complete streets master plan, items in past budgets, as well as, mapping it against our existing 2025 and beyond priority list for CIP projects. Does anybody on this commission have any lack of clarity about what we are asking that subcommittee to do? Yes, Tom.
Kind of question is, are we actually gonna vote on if it's a subcommittee or it's a two-person ad hoc?
Yeah,
I mean, is that part of it too, or is it
yeah, I mean,
just the direction?
I think we can go ahead and do a subcommittee. It seems clear to me that we've got a pretty crisp task there. I'm not opposed to a working pair,
Well, I mean-
also working on stuff that might be maybe slightly outside of that, because I think there were a few things floating around that was worked on, but
Well, I think the clear direction is either way, it's just a matter of when formal the subcommittee,
Yeah.
or if you wanna, like Art saying,
yeah.
not quite
Sort
so
of
formal
there.
and.
Yeah. I think I'm suggesting we do a subcommittee, and if the commissioner wants to entertain other stuff, welcome to do that too.
It seems to me that I don't really understand the formal interaction between a working pair and the staff. I do understand the subcommittee interaction because I was on one and it worked very well because there were formal meetings, there was an agenda, there was an output. And it seems to me a subcommittee is more structured. And that this task is also the kind of task that can be structured in that way, where it would benefit by that close relationship between the commission members and staff members.
I was thinking that I'd not still be meeting with the city, but Art can answer that probably better.
I guess it is an interesting question, Art. Do you know how, like, can the working pair, can we just, meet with you and Stephen?
Yeah.
How does that work? Yeah,
We could also, yeah, if you guys need help, we can assist.
good to know.
We're not gonna say no. Yeah.
For sure.
I'm not gonna say ignore you.
Yeah.
So is there a difference between subcommittee, two people, maybe, or
Again, the ad hoc subcommittee is more formal, establishing, all these criteria that needs to be done. We did put it on the agenda that we could discuss forming an ad hoc subcommittee, but again, when you form it, we gotta make sure that
Yes,
you read
absolutely.
these, six bullets. So we wanna make sure we're following this, the motion establishment of, but if you want to work in pair, as an informal, sort of 1, 2, 3.
So what you're saying, so
Yeah,
I don't want to put word, so my understanding of what you're saying is that the flexibility that a working pair gives you is that if you don't already know
You don't have to be
exactly
specific,
how-
exactly.
what the subcommittee is gonna do in its comprehensive work, the working pair can actually define that because they're flexible.
Yeah,
They can define that to a greater detail, then they can actually bring that back to the commission and say, here's what we've got, and so far, and this is how we think we need to move forward. Now, does it make sense to form a subcommittee? So that's a potential way to go, where stuff doesn't get left off because a month later, you go, oh my God, I forgot to add that one thing. It's
Yeah.
obvious, but we can't do it because it's not in the charter.
Yeah, I think that's right. I can go ahead and, just for the benefit of the commission, just like read these bullets that are part of the ad hoc subcommittee. Yeah, so, when we do the motion establishment, you must include that the ad hoc subcommittee is comprised solely of members of the commission establishing the ad hoc subcommittee. consists of less than a quorum of the commission, includes a defined purpose and the time frame to accomplish that purpose, and is less than 1 year duration, will automatically terminate when a final report is given to the commission or when the time frame established by the commission is met, unless extended by the commission at a public meeting, will not be reestablished or reviewed in multiple years, and is advisory in nature and is not established to work on an item where continuing jurisdiction exists. So there we go, all that good stuff. Just like Steve, you said, I was on the commission with you and others, and excuse me, subcommittee, yeah. I was on the subcommittee and I found that we were able to work effectively within these sort of formalities, so I'm not too concerned about it. I kind of like the formality because I feel like it's clear, we're noticing for folks what we're working on. I think we've got enough direction that we can do what we need to do. And look, if we go do our work and we figure out we need something else, I think we still have the ability to come to the commission and have flexibility to then form a working pair, right? We can do what we need to do to address what we think is important. So, yeah, I would say for this one, yeah, I'm recommending that we go ahead and form a subcommittee, and I would like to.
Sure, well,
Yeah, absolutely, correct.
Just,
Yeah,
just, something to think about before we vote on this.
Yeah.
To think about it is, do we potentially have anything else that we may want to form a subcommittee this year? If that's the case, we have to make sure that we don't have overlapping members.
yeah.
Just, have you discussed with staff or anything that you may want to think about? Forming another subcommittee for any other item on our work plan.
We do have the next item on our agenda for tonight, is a discussion around forming an ad hoc subcommittee, also to address other items on our work plan. So the answer is yes.
You could only be on one subcommittee at
Yeah,
a time.
yeah, only one subcommittee at a time for sure. Yes, there's nothing else that I'm aware of right now, that we've talked about with staff, or that I understand needs an additional subcommittee. That's not to say that it couldn't happen. There is additional work that we want to do over the course of the year. So it's a good point.
So the question I had was, before we go to discuss item number 5, do we need a subcommittee for work item number 5 in lieu of what we are forming a subcommittee for this item number 4? Or does the chair and the vice chair feel like you have sufficient information to help prioritize through discussions at the commission meetings for the rest of this coming year? So that's a open question, because we're kind of halfway through the year.
Yeah.
In another 6 months, we have I understand that we have we have a work plan, which we know that we're not gonna accomplish all of it. And I think if we ask, there would be to prioritize that.
Yeah, yeah.
So the question I'm asking is there sufficient, or do we need a subcommittee, or can that be a working plan?
Yeah.
In group, so anyway, so.
That's a good point. And I-
Also, I was going to bring up with scheduling wise, so this is June will be our last
Yeah, next
complete streets until, because we'll take a break on July, we'll be back in August, so something to think about too.
Yeah, I think that's another argument in favor of forming either a subcommittee or a working pair or both, so that some work can continue during that period, looking into advancing a lot of work.
Right.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, go
So
ahead.
to just answer your question, as you framed it to both of us, the reason this was placed on here, I think, was a discussion with the 4 of us around lack of prioritization, and with lack of prioritization comes a lack of accomplishment. I can't speak for the rest of the commissioners to say like this, that out of the 14 project lists that we have, like which one we should be focused on right now to accomplish and achieve. And so part of this number 5 discussion topic is to prioritize, or for us to say a vote or find a way to say, great, like these are the top 3 things collectively. And then we go after them, like we're kind of trying to do with discussion topic 4, right? I know we have a lot we want to do, but what can we actually achieve from our side? And then what do we need to work closely with staff so we can prioritize lists, get behind the curtain, and plan accordingly for the future. So that's how I see this.
Art, can I ask you a question? Sure. Can commission member be on simultaneously subcommittee and a working pair?
Now you gotta be careful, because you gotta be careful with the discussion, like it can start becoming overlapping.
If
You gotta be
we
careful
create a
that-
quorum or-
Exactly,
So
so,
definitely, because we're in danger of creating a daisy chain or something.
Yeah.
Exactly, so we gotta be careful with that. I don't, I don't think it's a good idea, to be honest with you.
Gotcha.
Because you might, there is,
Yeah. But they can, but they can work simultaneously, but we probably should cross pollinate the vendors.
Exactly, because there's, there could be discussions and,
Yeah,
these, it
absolutely.
could come out, so I don't think it should be, it's a good idea, sorry.
Yeah, okay, yeah, thanks, that's good, good comments.
But we have, what, 7 members, right?
Yeah.
So, I don't know how many members you want, but, you could get, you get a few, just ad hoc subcommittees or working pairs, so.
Yeah,
And you could have, actually, working pair, you could have only one person do it, too.
yeah,
So there's, you got plenty of,
Sure.
Yeah.
so that's options for, this is a lot of supervision.
yeah. Scott, can I ask you a question, just to your point on the prioritization point? I mean, if we had to do one as an ad hoc subcommittee, and one as a working pair, number 4, number 5 here, would you focus on the work plan prioritization or working on the gaps in SRTS and CSMP? Do you have a preference? Not, I mean, I think they can both be accomplished in a similar way. Maybe it's more of a question about who's on each, and we'll talk about that too. But do you have any thoughts on the right way to structure those two? Yeah,
There's many ways to get to the end. There's
Yeah,
no value back
actually.
on that.
Yeah.
What's most efficient, I guess, to
Yeah.
get there?
yeah,
I mean, I would say have 2 working pairs, go at it, and
Yeah.
then there's no conflict of interest. They have clear goals, like, we're working on this, here's what we're bringing back to the team,
Okay.
back to the commission, we make a commissioner's report. We don't have to be as formal, we can move a little bit faster and set internal goals. I love formality.
Exactly, we don't have to
That's-
judge
but
that, exactly.
I don't know, given the way we're treating the working plan document, right? We're informal with it right now.
Yeah.
And I think with some dedication and a few people with a strong, leadership on it, I think we can actually move quicker on it and make traction. But right now I've been saying we're still like, well, what's most important to us?
Yeah.
And we know, but we
Yeah.
don't have it listed, and so therefore we're not doing anything.
All said.
okay. I think, yeah, that sounds good to me. So, I mean, if folks are comfortable with 2 working pairs, I think maybe, and I think we're getting into talking about 4 and 5 together, but I think 5 is relevant for 4, so I think that's okay.
And also, the working pair is, we don't have to put it on the agenda.
Yeah,
You
right.
could just go back to the commission.
Yeah,
So it's, you got more flexibility, because we have to write down if it's
Yeah.
ad hoc and we
yeah.
have to do it.
I think it's lots of this thing.
Exactly,
Yeah.
so, that's something to think about.
Cool, so maybe I'll come up with a suggestion, I'll suggest folks can modify this as we see fit. But for 4 and 5, we propose to form working pairs for each of those, 1 for each of those. And then we can decide on who would want to be on that as well. I think maybe we kind of figure out who would want to be on that, and then we just propose both, and then that'll just we'll be done. Yeah, Suresh, please.
Do we have to, formally announce who's it?
No,
We don't
because it is, right, because it's not formal.
Oh, that's a good point,
Yeah,
yeah.
so you guys could actually, it's better to just do it here, and so we
We're
can
so
kind of,
free.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
it's
So
amazing.
it's nice that we have it here,
Yeah.
at least we, you
Yeah.
guys know what you're gonna do,
Yeah.
but if you guys,
We know it's not gonna stay.
Or you
It's all
want-
gonna- Yeah.
I think you wanted to do it. Just kidding.
Yeah, exactly.
That's not here.
Well, what she thought of it. But,
No, she emailed
Yeah.
us.
Ah, yes.
Just can't.
so, okay, so then, yeah, I think then maybe the proposal is just that we, with, 4 and 5, we form a working pair, in lieu of forming a subcommittee at this time. And then the folks supporting each of those, can sort of organically form, I guess, depending on who's available for that and who's interested in it, from what I'm hearing.
And I think it would be good for that clarity then, because it's not gonna meet in July.
Yeah.
Like in August, to have a pretty, comprehensive report.
Absolutely, yeah. And in fact, I mean, we have a June meeting, so we can discuss, anything that we come up with before that gets direction from the commission, and I think that'll support a report in August. Okay, great. So then I guess we can take that to a full working group. Do we need to vote on it?
No.
Okay, we're gonna do it. We're not gonna form a subcommittee.
Okay,
So
that's
I'm not proposing for a subcommittee.
Probably, you
Yeah.
probably ask for people who would like to work on it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
maybe we'll do
exactly. Yeah, I think so,
Are there folks that, on the commission who would be, available to support, either, number 4 or number 5? And I guess I'll throw myself in there as I'm happy and willing to support, either of these, and work with anybody on the commission. And I hope that others are open to doing this too, because I think it's going to be helpful for our work this year. So, appreciate folks who, may have availability to do this. Is anyone open to join?
Wait.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, just a happy guy. Yeah,
Any contention? We've got a member who recused himself from this meeting,
yes,
who's not present.
correct.
So when you're asking for folks to indicate affinity for either or neither, there's one absent.
We've had a request that member not participate in the subcommittees.
exactly.
Okay.
We
So-
don't
so yes, we are-
just go through, we don't know, we got that, we got that, we're
That member is contributing to the commission in many ways, but UTAB pack and everything, so.
No, we're aware of this.
Thank you.
No penalization
Yes.
for absence.
No.
Absolutely not, absolutely not,
You requested
Yeah.
it, yeah.
for sure.
I would, caveat, I have a fair amount of travel
Yep.
scheduled in July and August. But, I'd be happy to participate in one or the other around that travel schedule.
Thanks, Steve, appreciate it. That's, I'm counting 3. One would be willing to help, amazing, appreciate it. Do you have a preference for one or the other? All right.
I would have to find.
Awesome, thanks so much, appreciate it. Great. Well, then we can go ahead and try to get folks together, on those pairs. We can put that together. Do you have a preference, Tom, on one or the other?
Fine.
On 5, okay, great. Okay.
Can I, make a suggestion
Yeah.
about, the materials that would be used as inputs into these processes?
Yeah.
How do we get that distributed within the commission? So the reason why is just other commissioners may want to provide inputs in the meetings.
Yeah.
Or send email to staff.
You can send to me and I can distribute, so we don't have a,
Yeah.
chain effect or discussion on it, so I can do that. If you guys want me to, you have something, you want me to inform the
Can I ask a question? Is there a way for, to share documents? Yeah, Google Drive or something like this that does not, that you can have, you can control access to. That way you don't, you don't create crazy chains.
Yeah, I don't want anybody, yeah, exactly, access to that.
Is there a way for?
I don't think there is. The only way is just to pass on the information which you guys have.
When was that you have something before? When was that you have something internally?
No, but I'm just saying, we're worried about people
Well, no,
getting in there and then accessing it, and then you're kind of just, it's a kind of a basic.
Okay.
So we gotta be careful about that.
Yeah,
So.
it can't sort of be like a document.
Everybody's like
Yeah.
contributing, so you're kind
But
of.
but then if we send information, you would make sure it goes to the right working pair.
Exactly, yeah, exactly, so, but you gotta let me know who the working pair is.
Yes, yes.
So, if you don't tell me, I wouldn't know, Yeah, so let me know who you want me to say, who that working pair is. That's not problem.
And how when if a working pair is assigned outside of this meeting,
Mhm.
you'll notify the commissioner as to what the working pairs are.
We can, if that's what you want me to do.
No, I'm asking is, what is the procedure?
Yeah.
Since the working pair is kind of new to it.
Yeah, everybody's doing that, it's a good thing, so, again, it's an informal thing, right? So if I know you two are working on something, then, I can let the, BCC, everyone email, the, Commissioner Suresh, Hamels is working on this, there's no discussion because you can't go back on the emails anyway, because it's BCC.
I think what we should do is,
I think Commissioner D wanted to say.
oh, yeah,
I was just gonna point out, any of those, file sharing things turn into a Brown Act violation.
Yeah, exactly.
oh,
Yeah,
good times.
You have the reference.
So I think what we do is go ahead and kind of form the working pairs.
And then
You
let
let
me,
you know.
let me know.
You'll
if you
share
want
with
to-
the share. with the-
Exactly,
Yeah.
that's just the information.
Yeah. And then work product can go through you. And also, I think to your point, Suresh, like, if there's any materials that commissioners want to share with the working pairs,
Just go through,
go
me.
through Mark. as
That's
well.
the best
Yeah.
way, and then I could send it to the working.
Great.
So we're in discussion.
All right, thanks, everybody. I think we have 4, and in fact, I think that covers item 5 too. I mean, I want to maybe just bring up item 5,
Yeah.
just so we can talk it for a little bit, but I think we have everything we need in order to form both of the working pairs.
We do have.
Yeah, exactly. That's another reason to bring up number 5. Yeah.
Other thing, you want to ask for public comments on both of the things?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. Did we, I don't think we asked for public comment, but, on number 4, I think realistically, yeah, forming these working pairs, on these items in particular, complete streets master plan, safe rest of school, priority items for the city to address in this year and coming years primarily concerning, do you want to comment specifically on that one? Thank you. Okay, so we'll move on to number 5, which I think we've discussed a little bit, but, I'll just reiterate it. This is work plan goal prioritization. We're discussing putting a working pair together to prioritize the top 2 work plan items to make sure that we really drive those to the end of this year. And we're going to do a working pair to do that. Is there any additional or separate input that commissioners want to add to that item beyond what we've sort of already discussed? And we'll open it up for Jim too.
I would just like to, I guess, express my, recommendations in this. While we listed top 3, if this does not need to be structured in top 3, it could be top 5. And then having a clear kind of action item list of how we get there versus like, here's our priority, like, how do we go after those as a commission? How do we work with staff on those, perhaps by requesting information in advance and getting ahead of ourselves? So I think, into the future, right, how do we accomplish these and not just how do we prioritize them, even though the discussion topic is just that.
Yeah, prioritize and execute complete the items. Yeah, totally. That's a well said. Thank you. Okay. With that, I'd like to open it up for public comment so we get to chat. Thank you for being so patient.
No problem at all.
Yeah.
I always learn.
That's what we aim for.
Okay, easier to read. There are 10 of them, so
Thank you.
point of each there.
And it's good for.
Yeah, that's right. Thanks, sir. Pass around.
But just for the record, I'm Jim Wayne, with Little Milton Road. First of all, I'll make a comment. If you go back to the budgets about 2 or 3 years ago, you will see about 8 or 9 CIPs for transportation, which have lost visibility. You don't see them anymore on the budget. Most of them were funded in various degrees, and it is a list. If you can't find that budget, I do have copies. But now, what I'd like to talk about today is you do have a very aggressive and possibly costly item in number 3, which is to do radar on the Los Altos streets. And I'd like to present to you maybe a more realistic way of doing that from a functional standpoint. First of all, what streets do you do? Well, whenever people of the public bring up, like Newcastle last time, and they said, oh, we have car speeding. Well, that should be kind of your priority list to do that. Now, fortunately, Los Altos has 4 wonderful tools. They're sitting over, 3 of them are always sitting over there in the police parking lot. And they are the radar cart from Stryker anyway, so Stalker. And they basically, you can use them, like you can put them on the street. You can turn the flashing light off, and the battery will clearly run it more than a week. And then basically they have they're able to save all of the week's data of every car. And then basically they have a great software program, which actually you can go over and use in the police department. And you can print out all kinds of things that you need to know. And it really kind of, in my judgment, kind of completes that task, because you will get, it's not official radar, it's nothing official, that it communicates and particularly to the residents. Now, I have done this, and I actually did it for the county, that basically you do have to get an okay from the police chief anyway. I had talked to her about this, but she was unaware of the capabilities of these cars. She saw them out in the parking lot and that's about all. So she has, and she was going to look into it. But, what you could do to go to her and say, we'd like to do Newcastle. And you say, like to have it there for a week, and we'd like to come in and use the computer and see what data printouts are they're formed. Now, one thing about the data informing or the printouts like this, when I showed these to my neighbors, all at once, it's not as bad as I thought it was. I mean, they are a great communication tool. And I think that's what you really need. I don't know how bad Newcastle is, but if you had the printouts of certain seats in Newcastle, maybe they say, I can live with it, or it's not that bad. So it's a great tool. And there are 4, and there's normally only 1 on the street. I've looked for the past 2 months, and there's always 3 there. It's an underutilized tool. And so from the commission, actually 1 person could go over and start the interface or start the dialogue. You may have to talk her into it because she does have to sign an officer to drag it out and turn it on and then come back a week later and drag it away. Also, one thing I found out is that, it's going to sit in somebody's house for a week or so. But the person who showed up and said, we've got a problem on Newcastle, you go ask her. And she probably built wise, but allows you the way it works. Would allow you to sit in front of her house. It doesn't matter. But the key thing is the light is turned off. So that we get a kind of a more realistic picture, and also the battery doesn't last that long. So I'd like to throw that out as a way to doing this, and basically it takes load off staff. You're kind of oddly satisfying this goal, and staff just records it type of thing. So, thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, John. I appreciate that. Did not know about that. Okay. So for the commission, does anybody have any additional comments or thoughts, on the item in general, or anything, obviously James bringing up as well?
Go ahead. Oh, I've got it, Jim, these charts you presented are almost 10 years old.
Yes, that's right. But, we had a problem for them, and the county was trying to work on the capacity increase at Foothill and Del Monte. And so I was feeding them information as to what the congestion on Foothill was causing to the local streets. And it's things like this is what they use to get a priority for the
I
major
understand that,
funding.
I'm just like, I'm surprised that it was that long. That's good.
But the tool hasn't changed.
So you said there's 4 of them, is that over here in this parking lot over here?
Yeah, you have to
About a
know,
block away?
there's a little playground over there.
Mhm.
And if you go back in the corner and you kind of hitch up over there, you can see the, well, I'm not gonna work around it.
Okay, we're on to time.
Exactly right. So I know what the top looks like.
They're not gonna be over there.
But it's an underutilized tool, and I presume they all still work. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, no, this is really good to know. You've got a lot of good local knowledge, very valuable, thank you. Okay, so, yeah, please, sir.
So just going back to the prioritization,
Yeah.
we're at number 5.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, so going back to the prioritization, so what is it that we want to look for when we prioritize these projects? Because we have a certain criteria in mind. Is it just what we can accomplish this year? Or do we think these are the most important ones? What is it that we're looking for?
Both. I mean, it's hard to say, right? Due to lack of, these are not in any particular order, right? Goals 1 through 5 are listed as is without any weight. And the anticipated completion date was things that we thought we would complete them by, right? So some of these require working with city staff that we know will be accomplished. I think some of them might be accomplished better. Should we work with them to get lists in advance and like ask Stephen for like the great things that he has planned, but we only learn when we ask him. And he's not, you're not trying to hold information from us. We just don't know what to ask until we get to that point. So I think some of those things might be critical, but I would leave it up to the working pair to say like, hey, how are we gonna chunk this up and move it forward?
Okay, the only other question I had was, are there items on there that the commission can make progress on without requiring significant staff time? Do you think, or do we want that working pair identifying some of that?
I don't know what they would, some of these, I guess, doing research to find past CIP projects, like things that Jim just mentioned, right, that I don't know where to find those, I guess, short of going through past meeting notes and trying to like, or tribal knowledge with Stacy, perhaps yourself, having been on the commission longer. If there's things that we can do within our own power, that's fantastic, but I think a lot of this might be like, hey, well, at least give me some information that might exist and then we can move forward with it. I mean, you're asking the right questions, so I think you're on the right train of thought, right? Is like, how do we
Yeah,
prioritize
I'm
this?
just bringing it up so everyone's speaking this.
Thank you.
Absolutely, thank you. Okay. Anybody have anything else on number 5? Perfect, and I think we can conclude on that, and I'll just note for the commission that I'm gonna go ahead and work with folks to form the working pairs, post this, and then we'll go ahead and communicate that to Art, as soon as we've done that, and we'll move forward with both of these, so appreciate everyone's help doing that. Okay, do we have any other cities?
Also, I think I misspoke with working pair, it should just be 1 or 2.
Yeah.
That's what they're called, working pairs, not 3.
Yeah, no, I think we've got.
Clear.
Yeah,
That's
very
it.
clear.
Cause I think I said 3. I
No,
Did I say
no,
3?
I don't think you did.
three?
I don't think you did.
Okay. I might have,
You-
I thought I said 1, 2, or 3, but it's 1 or 2.
It's a pair.
Yeah.
Yeah, pair can.
Birds.
Yeah, we're all on board with that. It'll be 2. It'll be 2 and 2. Yeah, not the same 2.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thanks. Do we have any city staff updates for tonight, other than what you guys are giving us?
Oh, the first thing is the Foothill Expressway. I just wanted to remind everybody, we did blast it through Facebook.
Yes.
I don't know if you guys saw that.
Yeah.
There's a website and there's a survey. So make sure you fill those out, fill out the survey, keep passing, sending the word to the community if you can, Greentown,
Yeah.
whoever, and then, next Tuesday, the 3rd, they set up the first workshop and it's here. At the Los Altos community, which is nice, so we don't have to go to another city.
Yeah.
So it's here, 6 o'clock, start, 6 to 7:30. So they'll have a little presentation with their consultant, the county consultant, I know, you've met a few of them during the audit. But they'll be here presenting, and then they'll have plans, so you'll see what they're coming up and definitely give a lot of input on that. So that's basically, that's next Tuesday, 3rd. Yes. Yes, please.
Just a couple of
Yeah.
clarifying questions, that is open to public.
Yes, open to public, and it's on their website now too. It's on that website, basically, and then we blasted out the Facebook.
And the second thing, do you know how long they'll keep the online survey open?
I'm not too sure. I have to get an answer for you. I don't know if it says on the website or not.
I don't recall seeing.
Okay, I'll ask the county how long that survey will be.
Thanks, Art. That's a great one. I appreciate that. Anything else? Cecily?
There's another one with El Camino. I know if you guys started driving on, especially from the Sunnyvale side, they started putting those, the barriers, basically the vertical elements. And they're gonna be going through, should I open this up? But I think they're gonna go, they're going through our side, I think starting end of this week or starting next week, right, Stephen?
I think it was next week.
Next week, right? They'll be going through, Los Altos side, going on, starting next week, so you'll see going westbound.
Heading towards Palo Alto.
Heading towards
Yeah,
Palo Alto.
yeah, west, northwest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it started from Mountain View and they're heading.
Yeah, it's where it comes, no, the Sunnyvale, Mountain View, and then Los Altos, and Palo Alto. And then they'll come back.
Well, I mean, there's,
Do one minute.
technically, there's a Mountain View and Palo Alto the whole way. They just get into our city.
No, basically, I go pass through us and then.
Yeah.
It's basically, yeah.
I think they're at, as of this morning,
Well, yeah,
they were at El Monte, just hitting El Monte or, yeah,
Oh, there is.
El Monte.
They had a schedule.
I was swimming this morning at, Eagle Park and I saw them, they're out there with their trucks and they block off a lane and they're out top
So
of
they
it.
are, they're scheduled, so it's good.
So they're, it's all being done, funded by the county, right?
What's that? No, this is
No,
township.
township.
Sorry,
Sorry.
yeah, township.
Okay, so what you showed me last week, the picture you told me about was that they put those on the overpass over Highway 85 at El Camino.
Yeah, that's what it is, and then it's
And I drove by there like, oh, those look pretty solid.
yeah,
Is that the same, they're gonna put that exact same barrier all the way down on both sides?
all of them.
Cause those are tall and solid.
Yeah, exactly, so.
Okay.
Art, I have a question, sir. In terms, I was downtown today and it's clear that the water company is, out and about, on stage.
Yeah, remember,
Do you have any sense realistically how long that's gonna take before?
I think they finished their last trenching today, and I think they backfilled. But the thing is, they have to come back, do testing, what else, they're doing testing, and then they got to do the finish, product basically.
So basically, what they committed to us was, by the end of this, coming month, June, they'll be done with parking lot 6, State and Main Street. They're trying to get out of the way for R1 in July,
By the end of July?
beginning of July. I think the R1 is like July 2nd or something like that. So they committed to us that they'll be out, everything restored before then. So after the R1 is where they'll do other sections of the parking lots and city.
Isn't that wine on Friday, Saturday, Sunday?
Hmm?
Isn't that wine on Saturday and Sunday?
Yeah, but they also set up a little earlier, so.
Cause July 4th is a Friday.
Okay.
They're probably good at 6.
I wanna see what's the second, but.
The second one's. When is
Yeah,
that?
the reason I asked the question is that with all the disruption where they're working,
Hmm?
a lot of the crosswalks, which were not terribly visible before they started, are now really,
Yeah.
obscure. And I don't know whether there's anything that can be done temporarily to highlight the crosswalks before the actual striping can take place, months from now.
Kinda ironic, we were talking about that this morning. Basically, what I had them do is go through, I don't know if you're aware, but at night. At the end of the job, they go through and sweep the street once, and then at night, to minimize impact to the business. They actually do send someone for about 2 hours up and down that road, and clean as best they can. Unfortunately, the strike wasn't good to begin with. So that's one of the reasons why I'm trying to hurry up with this, matter. So the fact that we gotta get back out there and finish when we put the strips down. Because whatever we do now is just temporary, we're gonna throw away in about a month. So we'll just clean that up as best we can and then just get out there and get the project done.
And the Art and Wine Festival is July 12th.
July 12th.
The Los Altos Town Criers front page article was about this, did they address timelines in that article?
They did.
Okay.
I just didn't know how it was.
Okay. Sounds accurate.
So you're testing us.
I can't find it on their website, but I saw it in the mail right before I got here, so it's
It was in the.
Thanks, Steve, for raising that as well. Any other commissioners' reports? I think we've got to say, right? Yeah.
Steve.
I'm good.
Thanks, Steve. Anything from the commissioners report out? Yeah, Tony, you got.
El Monte southbound at Covington, making a left turn. There's a left turn lane there. There's a traffic sensor. That sensor is not sensitive to bicycles.
That's a really slow, like, I go there every day, yeah, so.
Is there
I
a
noticed that myself.
Is there a license?
Is that my sensor?
There's supposed to be, there's a line on the street there that says that they're,
Yeah.
right here.
Yeah.
So you said that one's in Covington?
Yeah.
Left turn onto Covington.
Left turn.
Yeah, that signal is a little bit.
Going south.
Yeah,
Yeah,
south-
that was south.
yeah, southbound and left turn.
Yeah, left turn, but. No, but,
Thanks, John.
oh, wait, I look into that.
No, I don't. Anybody have anything on potential future agenda items?
Oh, can I ask a
Oh, yeah,
question?
sure. Yeah.
The commissioners who staff the mini electric fair. Event, have any inputs from the
Well, I can share this, though, I guess what's what I'm looking for, the summary meeting of the bike month is occurring next Tuesday, so I'm meeting with all the community members and organizations at large, to discuss the impact and kind of work that happened from Living Electric Fair, staffing to the bike ride on El Camino and all the other pieces, so I can report back next commission meeting around the impact. But if you have something specific for Steve about.
No, that's great.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I'll have something to share at that point.
Perfect.
You see, like, does anything, impressions on, Living Electric and anybody come by the booth?
The only thing I would share was that, I was present in the, at the electric fair. I was present in the police booth for a couple hours. And I was really impressed with the level of support that the police department put into that event. Both in terms of community relations and with the, with the level of engagement that they had with the community around safety around town. It was really interesting to talk to, the traffic sergeant, Michael Taylor, about, his commitment to get the education process underway. And he acknowledged the fact that due to, staffing and training constraints, they were, a little behind in terms of getting out the door with it. But the sense that I got is that, he's committed to make something happen. I think it would be great, by the way, if at a future meeting, I don't know if it's the one that we're gonna have, in August or September, if we can invite him in to present where he was in that process. Both from a planning and an implementation perspective.
Talked to Sergeant Taylor this morning regarding this matter, and he said that he's gonna talk to the chief about the timeline that we have to implement. So we'll get back on, but I did throw out the request to him, come to us and do a presentation.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good agenda item. We discussed this at the last work plan meeting, that we would like to have. Yeah. Sergeant Taylor here. I think, my recommendation, if you have a chance to communicate, is for them to come and speak to us so we can get our inputs, not so much, even if they're not ready to discuss with their plans, it would be great to listen to the commissioner inputs as well. And I think specifically, dude, I think there were some items that we had talked about, how do we create a resource, an online resource for the community members to go to? And if there's a way the commission can help, it would be good for us to have that discussion.
I'll send that out to him.
Yeah, one of the things that, the police department brought some collateral, which was great, about, describing the different kinds of e-bikes, what classes they were. I had also copied some stuff off of the Orange County website that talked about, tips for parents around safe use of e-bikes. And a lot of that can easily be repurposed from into Los Altos, collateral with, what I would think is just a really small amount of work. And, I noticed in the town prior that, the city now has somebody who's responsible for, communications. To work with the different departments and, maybe she could help.
I'd love to, again, there's situation where I know that there was a prior consultant and prior work done and prior education, work done, and if we could even learn more about what that was or access that in some way, then that's something that we could potentially as a commission take on to repurpose, update, and maybe figure out a way to share and get available to folks. And I'm sure I'm open to doing that, and working with other folks who are doing that. So yeah, that's, just an example of something that, Sergeant Taylor were available, that we can probably dig up some of that or figure out a way to put that forward together versus making it all something that the PD feels like they have to do independently or on their own. We're here to help. So yeah, thanks Steve for bringing that up. And thanks Stephen for having that conversation too. I think it's a good priority. Yeah, Scott.
Suresh, are we still on commissioner reports?
Yep.
Chair, Phil, I have a commissioner report.
Love
Suresh, your question prompted it, I guess. So before I give a summary, next meeting around the 2025 Bike Month, I wanted to report that I did the 2025 El Camino ride from Santa Clara, not to Menlo Park, but to Los Altos and then home. I did 11 miles with my partner and about 220 other people. So we started at the Santa Clara Transit Center at 9 a.m. We left at 9:30 and we left in 7 different bike trains going down. So there was person in front for safety. We took over actually an entire lane, the far right lane as we went through, given the amount of people and also given the fact that there's not a bike lane or protected bike lane around El Camino for the sections that we were riding. And when we got to Mountain View, even though there was a bike lane, there was still too many people, so we actually took over the 3rd lane, but then used it appropriately to go into Eagle Park and then also at the next bike station, which was in Palo Alto, at these rest stops. But ultimately very successful, really fun. People of all ages, several different bike styles, and people like hardcore cyclists to just like a family and community together with music. And so it was a great way to experience El Camino in a safe way and a slow method. And there were signs out there and people filling out the survey for Foothill Expressway as well. And then met some other people that are part of bike coalitions and city council members that showed up at different stops. So overall, successful, lovely day. And yeah, it was great to be part of.
What were the motor vehicle adequate? Were motor vehicles
Yeah, there was no, no issues, no honking, no fingers, no cursing. It was like, it was with that many people, right? It causes interest.
Was PD in it? Any PD out there?
No EP at all. I thought there might be, but there was, I don't know, individuals acting as police officers, if you will, with jackets on, and they would ride ahead and block a yielding turn lane or prepare the group to turn safely. So we acted as a unit, right? We weren't like critical massing through lights or anything. So, and they made this very clear, like, this is how we operate. This is what we're doing this for. If you were there for an exercise, that wasn't the bike ride for you. It was a leisure ride at best.
That's amazing. Thank you, Scott, for doing that and reporting on it. Amazing. Okay, does anybody have anything else on a report? Yeah, Tom.
So, Art,
Yes.
I had, told you about that video last week. The video I showed you about, just to show you the difference what the study that I was doing for the one intersection. And I emailed you the YouTube video.
Did you?
Yeah.
Oh, you,
About an hour or so ago.
I haven't seen, I don't have it.
Oh, you
I'll look at it.
Oh, okay, I thought maybe you just put it up for, to Stephen too.
No,
I thought
I
maybe
think
you put it up.
No, but I will send it to you,
Oh, okay. So anyway, what it is that, over in Sunnyvale, the intersection of Marion and Remington Drive, they've got, it used to be 2 lanes basically going in each direction, all 4 ways, when I lived in Sunnyvale like over 20 years ago. They converted now to 1 lane each direction with bulkheads. So they've got these barriers that you have to, if you're gonna take a right turn, you have to go way out and around. And then one of those motorcycle kind of cut through and held it, but like a bicycle could keep the bike thing. But it was just interesting that they're slowing traffic down by that to make this very sharp turn go right instead of speeding around it. It's just a different way of doing it, so just more informational. That's all.
Anybody else? Okay. Potential future agenda items, anything else anybody wants to propose for upcoming agenda? Okay, I think we're good. We can adjourn for tonight, which is else, we've got 7:56. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Really appreciate it. Thanks, Stephanie.